Exciting news, everyone. My new book, I Wish I'd Quit Sooner, is officially out now. You can grab it on all major book retailers and online distributors, and the audiobook is also available on all the popular listening apps. Visit drlaura.live or check the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. I'm Dr. Laura, and I'm delighted to be here today with Kim Bolourtchi. We're going to be talking about unlocking our potential in work and life, why strategic unruliness matters. And you're going to be wondering, what is that term, strategic unruliness? We will unpack that in this episode. But let me tell you a little bit about Kim. I was introduced to her by Dr. Karen McNeil, a kindred author, professional speaker, and friend who said, you must meet Kim. She had a book come out recently called Strategic Unruliness. It's awesome. She's awesome. You two should connect. So we did. And like me, Kim is all about inspiring leaders and professionals across industries to unlock their potential. I don't like rules myself. I find that rules cage me in, and I would rather beg for forgiveness sometimes than follow detailed anal types of rules. I find ways around rules as a mover and a shaker to get things done in society, as long as they're about the greater good and advancing things forward, which is why this topic really resonates for me. A little more about Kim. She has a really interesting background. So in addition to being an author, she's a keynote speaker and a strategist who works with senior leaders and high-achieving women to challenge the rules that quietly cap ambition, creativity, and growth, and replace that with clarity, conviction, and direction, taking people to new levels. And her career is very nonlinear, which I really appreciate. She went through law, has been a lawyer. She focuses on executive strategy and, get this, competitive Latin dance. So a really interesting mix and a very well-rounded human being. And her approach is both deeply decisive and human. So I'm going to turn over the mic to Kim to tell us a little bit more about you and the why behind the work you're doing.
Well, I'm so excited to be here with you. First, let me just say, this is such a treat. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about literally my favorite topic, breaking the rules to build what's next. So, funny thing, every time I go to talk about this, I always think about the irony, because most of my life, I was one of those rule-following people. And I always have to confess that, because I now talk about breaking the rules, but for a really long time, I tried to follow them. And the reason was, when I was young, I wanted to be really impressive and I wanted to be successful. And so I was like, hey, give me the playbook. Tell me what I need to do to be impressive, successful, liked, respected, and I will do all of those things. So for a very large part of my life and career, I followed every rule. I followed the playbook. I did all the things that were supposed to get me where I wanted to go. And the truth is, they worked. But what happened was I found myself doing all the things, looking really, really good on paper, and feeling like something was really, really missing on the inside. And so I had this secret life of being a competitive Latin dancer. At the same time that I was this high-powered attorney, I kept that completely secret because I believed that no one would take me seriously. It wasn't professional. I wasn't allowed to do that, right? The rule said, you can't prance around in high heels and sequins and be this well-respected attorney. And that was my life for a really, really long time. So the work that I do in helping people break the rules is a function of me breaking free of the limits in my own life where I was living kind of this false reality for a really long time and finally decided enough is enough. This doesn't work for me.
Wow. So you were hiding your passion. You were hiding another of your identities. It almost felt like you were two different people, almost going into the phone booth and changing in secrecy like Superman used to.
Literally. And I would lie. I would lie about it. Like, I'm not proud of it, but I would lie to my colleagues. I'd say I was going out of town to visit relatives when I was going out of town to compete in national championships.
Wow. And that must have been an unsettling feeling, because then you have to keep track of your lies and then have a feeling of, what if someone finds out and then I'll be deemed dishonest?
Absolutely. And, I'm not proud of it, but I also think that there are a lot of people who don't believe it's safe for them to fully be themselves. They're modeling this version of themselves in the workplace, right? And in life that they think they have to be in order to be respected, in order to be professional, in order to be the person that everyone's going to like. And so they're, maybe not to the extreme that I went to, but they are actively hiding parts of themselves that someone told them along the way. Hey, that's not going to get you where you want to go. Hey, that's not cool. That part of you need to put that somewhere else because it's a liability. When the truth is, we're so much better when we're a whole person as opposed to, the compartmentalized trying to keep track of what part is allowed to be where.
Exactly. That is so well put. It reminds me when I penned my first psychological thriller, I used my married name, Laura Lovett, for my book, Losing Cadence, because I didn't want to use my business name, Hambly, because I didn't want people confused about me writing a book about a billionaire abducting his ex-girlfriend into a perfect life for them and all the twists and turns of that crazy fantasy situation, which, by the way, we're positioning for a TV series or film as we speak, because it's really good content, very, very timely content on possession and obsession of women. But I tried to say, I'm going to put that under that Lovett name, and then I'll be Hambly at work, and people won't know the organizational psychologist actually writes psychological thrillers. And then I threw that all by the wayside when I started Where Work Meets Life. And in 2020, I thought, you know what? I'm Hambly Lovett. I'm both. I write psychological thrillers. I do organizational consulting, and I'm just very open now. So I feel the same as you. I think I was dual identities as well before.
Yeah. Well, I think we're given a lot of messages about what's acceptable and what's not. And particularly as women, right? When you're in a profession where it's very important that we have integrity and people look at us, we work with high powered people. It's very important that you have a particular image. And we're taught very young, hey, don't screw that up, right? At least for me, I was very aware of being careful about that. And the reality is, it's just not true. That's somebody else's fear about, what would be presented and how it's perceived. But I think there are a lot of people who still fear that. And that's why I really like to talk about it.
Yeah, I think you're on to something really, really important. And I really admire you for your courage putting this out into the world and putting your story out into the world. Your speaker reel is fantastic, by the way, talking about your true story. And I think building in the dance in there is just so powerful. So let's talk about Strategic Unruliness, the book itself, which came out when?
Well, October 2025.
Okay, why did you write it? Who's it for? And how do people get their hands on it? 3 questions.
So I wrote it. It almost was like I was on a mission because I realized that I now have so much wisdom that's like hard earned from living things and doing things the hardest way possible. That's one of my superpowers, is doing things the hardest way possible. That I really wanted to make it easier for people to do it differently. And so some of it is my stories, but they're also stories of success, of leaders and incredible people that I've had the privilege of working with and taking through this framework who have literally achieved their dreams by doing it differently. And so for me, it was like, why would I not put all of this into the world? And it was really scary because I was really vulnerable in this book, but I'm so excited to be able to share it because I know that it really is helping people not just see the world differently, but actually be able to act differently, in how we think about the rules and what's keeping us from doing what we really want to do. So that's why I wrote it. And it's called Strategic Unruliness. And it's available on Amazon. It's available at Barnes & Noble online, Target, Walmart. I think those are the main places that people can get it.
Fabulous. And you became an international bestseller, which is really exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I did. I actually did. It did really well in Canada. So I was really excited. I think it did well in Canada even before the US. So that was really, really exciting.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to hear that. So let's hear more about who so far is finding it useful and in what ways.
I really wrote it for for women who are successful and the people, I want to pause because I feel like, a lot of times people who are really accomplished, women who are really successful and really accomplished will be the same ones who are like, I'm not that successful, I'm not that accomplished. And if you have achieved all the things in life or some of the things that you were told you should achieve, right? You look really good on paper, you've achieved some things, and you're having this feeling of like, my gosh, I know there's more for me. And I don't even know exactly what it is, but I have this feeling that there is more. There's something else. And it's like this nagging, gnawing thing. And it is a roadmap for what to do when you have that feeling. It comes in your quiet moments and you've done awesome things. And it's not to diminish that. It's amazing, right? But then it's like, you don't have to stop just because other people tell you. You should be satisfied with what you've done and what you have. It's like, no, you shouldn't. If you feel a call to do more, it is meant for you. And this is sort of how you get there.
I love it because we're never done growing and evolving. And once you stop growing and evolving, life would get really boring, I think.
Yeah. And I really think there's so many of us that feel like, I've done the things I was supposed to do and I should be really happy here. And we say like, I'm supposed to be so grateful, but being grateful doesn't mean you have to stop. You can be so grateful for your life and still want more. And that's kind of one of the rules, right? That we get bound by is like, oh, I should be just happy with what I have. This is enough. But says who? Why? If you feel it, why can't you have more? You absolutely can have more.
Absolutely. And it often comes as a whisper about, I just don't feel as excited or fulfilled or challenged, but I'm doing all the things in the order that I was supposed to do them. And it really isn't a destination. Success is never a destination, is it? It's the path, the journey, the experience of today and tomorrow and what I'm living. And you never get there. You never get to completion, I think, because there's always more things to be evolving in. And it doesn't always have to be paid work, right? As we age and maybe retire out of paid work, there's so many other passions, hobbies, helping others, volunteering.
And I also think there's this idea that if you love it, you might not get paid for it. That was one of my things for a really long time was, yeah, I really love, I love helping women and girls do these things. And when I first started, I started a project for middle school and high school girls. It was one of the first things I did when I pivoted from law. And I remember my dad saying to me, no one is going to pay you for that. You're out of your mind. You're walking away from a high paying job and literally no one is going to pay you. Teach girls how to be more confident. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know if they would, but I always had this message that like, if you're not doing something really high profile and quote society, and society says is important, you're not going to make money. And what I found is that when you do what you're naturally gifted at doing and you absolutely love it and you're adding value and you're helping the world, you're going to get paid. And it just happens. And so it's such a lie that you can't get paid for your passion.
It is a total lie. And did the educating girls on confidence and developing them pay? Did it pay?
It absolutely did. And I would have done it even if it hadn't. And I think that's the thing, right? I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I was just really excited about helping them. And it turns out that there really was a market for it and there was a lot of value that was added and I did get paid for it.
That's beautiful. And for the last 16 years, I've run Canada Career Counseling. So it's career psychologists and therapists that help people choose and pivot careers. And that's one of the biggest things that parents go wrong with is the limited mindset about career. And they put their own self into their children about this is what success means, climbing a ladder. You can choose between doctor, lawyer, or engineer, right? Those are your choices. And that's what I'll be happy with. And if you don't, then I'm not going to be proud of you. And then the kid goes through engineering, hates it. And then we end up seeing them when they're 30 and they say, oh my gosh, I'm dreading every Monday. I don't like what I'm doing. I have this artistic spirit and I have never been able to follow the art because I was told art doesn't pay. And then we have to unravel all of that because art pays. It's just a matter of what forms of art. Art is all around us.
100%. And I think, those are some of the rules. most of the rules that we are bound by that limit us, they came when we were young. And I think a lot of them were well-meaning. They were intended to keep us safe. They were intended to put us on a path that, our parents, our coaches, our teachers, that it worked for them. The problem is nobody really knows any other person's specific gifts and talents. And so when someone tries to say, oh, that's not going to work, you can't do that, it might not work for them. It's true, right? The person saying it, maybe they can't do it, but they have no idea whether you can. And so there's all these people out there not doing the thing they really could do because someone else told them they couldn't, or it's not meant for you, or, oh, it's too late for you. And we've got all these beliefs swirling around that are keeping us from just going for it. And that's a shame.
So it's those beliefs that keep people small and holds them back from reaching their potential. So I'm imagining you get at the beliefs in the book and help people unpack those.
Yeah. I really focus on two sets, right? So the ones we have ourselves about ourselves and our own capabilities, and then the ones that other people are telling us about what's available to us and the rules that we're constantly being inundated with about what we're allowed to do, what we're allowed to want, what we're allowed to have, what's supposed to be enough, and why we tend to play small instead of going for the bigger things that we really, really want.
Fantastic. I think that's so, so helpful. So what would be the youngest you'd recommend Strategic Unruliness for?
And my daughter's 25, she read it. My son's 22, he read it. I think probably 20. I think probably 20. And even though it is truly designed for, I wrote it for women, for leaders who are, like contemplating where they are, their next steps, what they want to build. The reality is that it really is resonating as well with sort of the younger generation that's coming up, because it talks about not being bound by limits. And so on one hand, it's addressing, those of us who are hitting limits. There's a generation that's finding them earlier because they've got parents who are telling them this is what success looks like. And they're like, but hey, the world's completely different than when you grew up, and we want to do it totally different. And so in my book, they're finding sort of a path as well to like, oh, wait, I don't actually need to be bound by these beliefs and these ideas. There is another way to do it.
That's terrific. I might get it for my 20-year-old son, who's an avid reader in third-year business and really paving an entrepreneurial path for himself already.
He would probably like it. That's exactly, my son is in that same space, and he really resonated a lot with him. I was surprised.
And my son's saying a lot of the students say finance is the way to go. You got to declare a finance major and that's it. And then you work for a big bank and then this and that. And he said, but that's not really the path I want to take, right? That seems like a painful path for, where I'm at and what my passions are.
It's so good that he has a mom who can see and let him and encourage him to follow his passions. Because the thing is that when we do that, like that's where all of our magic is. Like truly, when we follow what we're good at, what we love, what we want to do, there's always a path. The world is win-win. It just is.
I totally agree. And I also see that we're in uncertain and challenging times in society, and we need to help people rise above the fear to innovate and help get humanity past this critical point. So what are your thoughts on that and how you hope to help with that fear out there?
I actually think that sometimes uncertainty and times of uncertainty can be a real gift. And here's why. When things are certain and everybody feels very safe where they are and they're like, yes, this is how it is, it's much harder to think outside that box. It's much easier to do things the way they've always been done and just kind of continue. When things are uncertain, it's almost impossible to argue that you know how it's going to end. It's almost impossible to tell somebody with certainty, this is the way to go. This is exactly what's going to happen. And so it's giving space for creativity, for innovation, for possibility. Never before have there been more businesses starting. Never before have there been more people going, you know what? I have this idea. Why not just take a step toward it and see what happens? I think something could work. And there's so much possibility right now for that. And so Yes, it's uncertain and it's super, super scary, but I think it's scarier to stay in old frameworks that literally do not benefit us, right? To me, the scariest thing in the world is to die and feel like I didn't achieve my potential or didn't do the things I really wanted to do. I would so much rather fail, which I have failed so many times on this journey, but know that I tried all the things and took a swing, right? And went down swinging than to sit back and just wonder what could have happened had I had the courage.
That's beautifully put. And you had a lot of courage to leave a secure, high paying, respected job in law. Like, what level of law did you get up to?
I was working for a large law firm. I was very well compensated. I held our family's insurance. I held every benefit. I was the one. My husband had started his own practice and was not doing great with it yet. I had a baby. And what really precipitated me walking away was when I came back from maternity leave. I went to them and I said, I want to take one day off a week. And they said, no problem. We're going to pay 50% of your salary for 80% of your time.
What?
And I said, well, yeah. I said, well, I'm not great at math. That's why I'm in law. But that math does not math. And I'm not going to do that. And I walked out the door in that moment. And that was the first step. I did actually practice law a little bit beyond that, but that was the first time I was like, no, that rule doesn't make sense to me. That's what they were doing to women at that time, which was, sure, you can have your freedom. I thought I was a groundbreaker for other women. Like, I'm setting the standard here. Women are going to get a day off when they come back. And they were like, yeah, we can work with you. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, I think, yeah, I've done some really risky and honestly stupid things looking back, but I'm not sorry for any of them because they all worked out.
That's terrific. Wow. So inspirational. Can you share any other nuggets from your book? Any other tips, tools, or nuggets that really stand out for people?
When I was a lawyer and I was believing that I couldn't share the thing about dance, I kept it, like I said, a total secret. I was arguing before the Missouri Supreme Court. It was the most important argument of my entire life. And my husband had to introduce me to the justices. And he was the only other person, he was my law partner, and he was the only other person who kind of knew my dancing secret. So he gets up to introduce me. There's 6 of them sitting there. And he says, Your Honors, Kim is this amazing litigation attorney. She's very accomplished. And by the way, she's a national dance champion. You should see her dance. She's incredible. And he starts going on and on. And when I tell you, my world went black. I literally, I disassociated out of my body. I started sweating through my clothes. All I could think of is they're not going to hear a word I say. I'm arguing for a man's life in 2 minutes and I can't think. Somehow I got through the argument. And when it was over, I ran to the bathroom and I'm standing there and I'm holding onto the sink. And I remember staring at my reflection, thinking my life is over. My career is over. I'm done. And one of the justices walks in and she goes, Oh my God, you're in here. Tell me everything about your dancing. I have to know everything. I've been wanting more in my life, and I think it is the most amazing thing that you do that. Where can I get lessons? Tell me how you do it. And it was the most surreal moment because I really believed that everything was over for me, that my life was done, my credibility was gone. I had spent years of my life fighting to separate these pieces. And in one moment, just like that, it was like, oh, everything I thought was a lie. And so I really want people to understand that the stories we tell ourselves and the rules that we believe about who we're allowed to be are false. And they're really, really damaging our ability to be as big as we are.
That is so well put, Kim. And yeah, your secret was revealed, but it opened so many new doors. And I think people hearing this, really, we're whole human beings, and separating your work and your passions and hobbies and keeping them as totally separate domains doesn't make sense. People want to know the whole human.
Yeah, they really do. And so I would just say if people are feeling a pull toward anything, if you have that quiet voice or that pull that's I just feel unsatisfied or unhappy or unfulfilled or just unsomething. I can't even describe it. Unsomething. Just listen to it. give it a little space instead of squishing it down and being like, no, 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 I'm not listening to you. Actually hear what it's telling you, because you will be surprised at what is available. But that is literally the first step, is just hear what you already know. It's not outside of you, it's inside of you.
It is. Take the time for stillness. I used to not like stillness because my mind would race. I have a very busy, active mind. But it's the stillness where you hear your inner voice and where you get the messages. And then there's your judgment voice that always says, well, that can't work, this can't work, that can't work. And a lot of people say, wow, Lori, you've written 3 books now. I had my nonfiction come out last week. I wish I'd quit sooner, Practical Strategies for Navigating and Escaping a Toxic Boss. And then I have the 2 psychological thrillers. And people said, how the heck do you have time to write books? I've always wanted to write a book. And I always say it's just one step at a time. It's taking the next step. And it's the little things you do each week that add up to the bigger things. Would you agree, Kim?
100%. And when you hear the voice that says, I can't do it, or it's not for me, it's not your voice. It's not. It's somebody else's voice. Because the thing is if you want to do it, if you've always wanted to write a book, it's because you could write a book. I'm positive. Like, zero doubt. If it's something you want to do, it's because it's meant for you to do it. Any doubt that you have has come from somewhere else. And when you can recognize that, it's, someone else's voice who couldn't write a book, someone else who told you couldn't because they wanted your attention to go some other place. Like, it's not yours. And so taking that step, one little step at a time, is the best way to make these things happen. Could not agree with you more.
Thank you. So, what does work-life wellness look like for you, Kim? I always ask my guests this because this podcast is about the intersection of work and life. How do you stay well as the whole human being you are?
I play a lot. And I didn't used to do this. I really I was a workaholic for a long time. And I found my value in my work. I felt like I was a worthy human being if I was working really hard. I was always the one who people could rely on. So I'd be like, I've got that. I can do that. I will do that for you. And it made me feel really good about myself, quite honestly. And so it's been an effort for me to say no to anything that doesn't completely light me up. So my rule for myself with work is it's a hell yes. Like, literally my whole body goes like, yes, I want to do that. I'm so excited to do that. Or I say no. And that's how I kind of keep my work from becoming an entire, 24-hour thing. And with the time that I have, other than that, I dance a lot. I walk a lot. I play with my dogs. I really am purposeful about finding joy in the smallest of places, because when I'm joyful and I'm excited about my life, my creativity is always bubbling, and I tend to get more of what I want faster. So
That's beautiful. Wow. And what are you most proud of about your dance? Like, tell us where that's taken you.
So again, it comes back to the rules. When I started competing, I was like, what do I need to do to win? I want to be a national champion. How do I win? What are the rules? How do I do it? Like, that was me. And it was quite a journey for me to go from trying to do everything meticulously to just going back to dancing for my soul. And I am most proud that when I broke the rules about what we were supposed to wear and wore what I wanted and did my hair the way that I wanted and just literally just danced from the inside place where I really live, I ended up winning the national championship after losing it like 3 years in a row. So it's that trusting myself to just dance my way and not worrying about whether people were going to like it or not.
That is so beautiful. Congratulations. What
Thank
an
you.
awesome and inspiring story you have, Kim.
Thank you so much.
What do you read or listen to for your own growth and development?
I like Tasha Silver a lot, her books. So I started, she's very woo. And I like her. She has a book called Outrageous Openness. And it's all about just kind of being open to receiving goodness and not attaching to like ideas about how everything has to be. It's like the more open you are to possibility, the more things are able to kind of come into your life. And I read it at a time when I was still really like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how it's going to go. And this is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to make this happen. And someone said, you should read this book. And I was like, this is a bunch of, right? And as I was reading it and listening to the stories in the book, I was like, oh, this is really good. I just read Matthew McConaughey's book, Greenlight, and I loved it. He's like one of the most aligned human beings without trying to be aligned. And he narrates his own book. It's an audiobook. So that was really cool. I really liked that book too.
Neat. And do you want to share about your own podcast?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Get Unruly. And it's really, I just talk about how we find and break different rules that tend to hold us back. So it's on iTunes, on Amazon, all the places that podcasts are found. And I took a little break for a while and have just been gearing it back up. So there's some really good guest interviews coming up and lots of good things ahead.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we'll include all of this in the show notes. And as we wrap up here, Kim, I'm going to ask you if you had one wish for a better world when it comes to people truly reaching their potential, what would it be?
I wish that people would believe in themselves, that they would listen to their own voice first. I really do. I think there's so much noise, and I think that gosh, it's not just one thing, Laura. I know I'm gonna say more than just one thing, but like I think that if we could remember that we're all connected, and it's all of our different gifts that make us so amazing as a collective, and if everybody is allowed and encouraged to just shine their brightest, like the world would be so amazing. We need everybody's brightest gifts.
We would. We have more than enough in this world to just be great.
Yeah, there's enough, and there's enough for everyone, like truly.
There is. So your passion really shines through, your authenticity, your light. You bring a really beautiful light to the world. I'm so glad that Karen McNeil connected us. That's a real gift. And I'm really excited about this episode and helping people realize that you can get in your own way, or you can choose to unlock your potential in your work and your life and break the rules of society that are getting in your way, the judgment, the mindset, those rules that are holding you back. So thank you, Kim, for your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really enjoyed being with you today.
Well, the gift is all mine, and I hope that you stay well. Thank you for tuning in to Where Work Meets Life. If you found this content valuable, please rate, review, and share with others who may benefit. If you're struggling in your work life and need support, I offer coaching sessions. You can book a complimentary consult on my website. I'm also a passionate keynote speaker and would love to discuss your professional speaking needs. Visit my website, drlaura.live, to sign up for my monthly e-newsletter filled with tips and resources to help you stay well.